Yes, we are
Hey.
live. Hello, everyone. Thank you to everyone who will be watching this now or in the future. We are live with Gray Star of Pretty Frankenstein.
Hello.
Hello, I'm so excited to speak with you, connect with you again.
Yeah. I can't
And
believe it's been a year. Like when you told
no,
me that, I was just like, oh, that was a couple months ago.
I know, no, it's actually so weird. And like I feel like every month I feel that way, every year I feel that way. So I just can't imagine when we get even older. Like it feels like this
Oh
now.
God, right?
I
Yeah.
really can't imagine
Yeah.
it. But yes, we did do our first like hangout and interview like a year ago.
It's
And
crazy.
so when we last spoke, you were actually just about to release your digital album, Roses and Cyanide, just in time for Valentine's Day.
Oh
Or
yeah.
yeah, on Valentine's Day actually on Bandcamp. So to anyone listening right now, you'll have something to check out for this Valentine's Day, which is just around the corner again.
Yeah. They'll actually have something new too coming out before
Oh,
Valentine's Day. I don't know when like we became a Valentine's band, a Halloween band, but
I
like
love it.
it happened. Like I think because I think it's a very Hallmark holiday, whatever, but like you can easily the parallels of horror, goth, and romance are like it just goes so well together.
Absolutely, especially the ways that you all do it. Like, I listened to that release when it came out, and you're the reason that I watched Pearl. Like, I never yeah, otherwise I wouldn't have
Yes.
watched that movie. And we're gonna get into that music video that you all made because it's so amazing. Um, but the Tiffany Valentine song, I have to say, I just recently got an even bigger appreciation for that song. So the way
Yeah.
that you all do spooky and romantic is awesome. I
Yeah,
absolutely love
thank
it.
you. That song Tiffany is great. It's kind of like Paulina and Marina's baby. The other two members of the band, and they we kind of wrote it all together. Like they came up with most of it, and then we got into the studio, and it was like, we were like, oh shit, this is really cool. And um, it's just so like sweet because it was like right around the time they were like prepping for their wedding, the two of them, and like it's just like I love that song so much.
Yes. Oh, that's so awesome. And so that was Tiffany Valentine, and I know you said you're not sure how you became a sort of Halloween Valentine's Day band. But for that whole EP, what inspired you initially to release it on Valentine's Day and have that theme?
I think it's just how the songs ended up sounding all together, and then so we put that out again kind of recently on Spotify, and kind of under a different name because we got a lot of the songs, we got all the songs like actually like mixed and mastered. And I think just the overall theme ended up finding itself when we put the songs together.
Absolutely, that made sense. It makes sense. And how long did that take? So like when you started making those songs, like how many weeks or months out were you from Valentine's Day before you were like, "Hey, let's release this on Valentine's Day"?
I think I think it was like we're very spur of the moment. Like there's a song that we've been sitting on that we are going to be releasing soon, and it's a very much a Valentine's Day song, and it can totally work with that. And I think we just didn't think of it until recently, and I was like, "Oh wait, oh we should put that out." So like it was I think it was kind of the same. We don't have a lot of like there's some things where we have oh yeah, this is gonna be like the year plan for the band, but then there's other things where we're like, let's just fucking put it out. We're not like on a major label or anything, so we can literally put out music whenever the fuck we feel like.
I love that, and you all do a lot, so it makes sense that, you're able to put things out when you want to, but the fact that you actually do so much is really amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Um,
true. You all are, like, on your grind, seriously.
it's so funny that people like tell us that all the time, but like we haven't played a show in months, and like I see all of these bands that like tour and like they're like constantly performing, and we're very much like a like if you get to see us, it's kind of a big deal because like we don't perform as much, and like to some extent I kind of like it that way. To other extents I'm like I want to play more, so we probably will be playing more soon, but like yeah, so with that said, that we like don't or haven't toured really, like I just make sure that we're like doing as much to have a presence, like, and just kind of like being a part of the community and like being a part of the like the artists, um you know the artist, what's the word, out in the like artist ether out there, like, um and just really just taking part in anything that we can.
Awesome, and you definitely do, and yeah, touring is rough because, I mean, it just requires so much, like, financially and everything, but like, outside of touring because touring isn't everything, you all,
Yeah.
like, seriously stay so busy, like, you and Empty Graves, it's another band, totally different
Oh
genre,
yeah.
but I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but
Yeah,
you
I've
are
heard of.
probably yeah? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Because 'cause you're 2 of the busiest bands in my opinion because you're on your content game, you're, like, on your music video game, songs, dropping music, so much respect because that's a lot of work, really.
Thank you. It's funny. I had a conversation a couple days ago where I was talking to somebody about how I really want to make a short film this year, and I've been like wanting to do that for a while, and I've felt kind of like stagnant in my like want for that, as far as like I've been saying for years, I'm like, this year I'm gonna put out a short film, um and but I was like, yeah, I've just been busy with the band. We put out like a song every like couple of months. And the person I was talking to was like, oh my God, you put out a song every couple of months? What the fuck? And I was like, yeah, what's like, isn't that what people do? And he was like, no, that's not. I'm like, he's like, I know bands that like put out a song every few years or an album every few years, and then they just like don't do things after that.
So true. That is so true. So yeah, all the respect to you all. And
Thank
side
you.
note, yeah, and side note before we go to the next question, in the future we should do an interview with all of your members. That would be really
Yes,
fun.
I would super like that. And like, I think just figuring out the mic situation and like also the timing, because like we all work like full time, so it's
Yeah, definitely with the coordinating and everything. Um, but yes, awesome. Okay, so speaking of releasing music, since last time we talked, I had, like, literally just gotten introduced to you all through TikTok. So
Yeah.
now that now that I've actually spent more time with your music, I extra love how much you genre bend and blend and genre hop, sometimes even within the same song. So a few of your songs have a
That's just
sea
called
shanty.
ADHD and unchecked autism. That's
No, it's awesome though. And a few of your songs actually have a sea shanty vibe. Is that intentional, or if so, is that what inspired you, or what inspired you to include that?
Yeah. So with some songs, it's like with some songs that vibe comes from my like love of like Tom Waits and like just kind of like old school, people like Jason Webley and Nick Cave and like Gogol Bordello and stuff, where it's just like the vibe is very that like boom 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 boom, like, but I think so. That's part of it for certain songs. Other songs are, um, like, for instance, "Gay Pirate Sex" is a song that was literally written about and for the show "Our Flag Means Death," and which we are like all obsessed with, to the point where we have a variety show that's based on it. So, um, yeah. So in that case, it's very much like we want it to sound kind of sea shanty esque. But yeah.
Amazing, and I'm so glad that you brought up, Gay Pirate Sex because that is, to date, my favorite, Pretty Frankenstein song. I just
Thank you.
Yes, it's so beautiful lyrically and sonically, like, the chorus always gets me in my feels every time. So can you share a little bit more about what inspired the song, like, lyrically?
Yeah, it's it's funny because it's literally just like there's not really any metaphors in it or anything. It's literally just about the show Our Flag Means Death. And I'm such a fangirl that I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a song that should have been in season two. Um uh I wasn't thinking that then because season two hadn't come out yet, but now I am. Um, maybe season three will get it, but the yeah. So I was very inspired by that show. I love that show, and I also love the song and their usage of the song "The Chain" by Fleetwood Mac. So essentially, it was like taking the two things and just putting them together. I was like, well, I would like to get into the psyche of making a song like The Chain. I mean, I know it's like I'm not saying that it's as good. I'm just saying like getting into that mind frame of like making a song with that format, with that kind of like vibe, but about the show that The Chain is literally in. Um, so, uh, yeah, it was pretty much just putting those things together and then putting our own kind of like Pretty Frankenstein spin on it, and adding the little bit of like, I don't know, going for the lower registers in the beginning to give it that more gothish undertones, and then letting my kind of like hard rock like metal kid come out for the riff that plays after the chorus, because like I don't know, sometimes I am like, this song needs more melody, more, something that gets like stuck in your head. So with that, I was like the bum bum ba dun dun dun. That's like definitely something that could just like last and be like, oh, I want to hear that like a million times.
That's exactly how I feel. That part and the chorus too, like, always stuck in my head. Seriously, like, every time I'm, like, randomly singing something, a good majority of the time it's the chorus.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you. And I love that. That was a very specific answer. I love when there are, like, very specific influences for songs and music. It's just always so
Yeah,
interesting.
and I like to make music that's like blatant ripoffs of things, but like there's so many different things that it's ripping off that you can't really pinpoint it. Like if somebody makes a song where like it's just electronic industrial with heavy guitar and stuff and they're screaming like Trent Reznor and that's the song, like that's cool, but at the end of the day it's like, oh well, that just sounds like Nine Inch. But if you take that and then you add like, I don't know, like a pop punky chorus or like something else from a completely different genre or completely different like, you know, uh sub culture or whatever, and you're like, I'm gonna put that in there, see how that sounds. That's where I feel like you get things that are like, oh, what is this? This is this almost original? You know?
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that's, one of the things I love about your all's music because you're not afraid to do that. Where I think sometimes people are really afraid of not fitting into specific boxes, but because you let yourselves take all the different influences, you do come out with something that sounds way more original. So
Yeah. Thank you.
definitely. Of course, yeah, it definitely comes through. So before we go into kind of the rest of your timeline from last year,
Mhm.
since we last spoke, we talked a little bit about Valentine's Day and your Valentine's Day releases, and it's also obviously Black History Month in February as well. So I know that you have always been, um, well, always since last year, since I met you, since last
Yeah,
February, yeah,
yeah.
I
At
know that
least since then.
at least since then. um Last year you were sharing black artists in goth and alternative scenes for Black History Month, and then I know that this year you shared some as well, and then I know that you mentioned that there was some sort of like controversy. Did you want to speak about that?
It's not yeah,
Or maybe that's
like
the wrong
okay,
word.
okay, here's the thing. I always put out lists on TikTok, and I made and Instagram, and I put this one out, and like honestly, I put this one out thinking like, oh man, like the first day I was like, oh, it's only got like a couple hundred likes or whatever, and then like it fucking blew up and everybody started sharing it, and it was a list of goth black artists to listen to during Black History Month, and the discourse from certain people that like share it or like comment on it is essentially just the usual gatekeeping stuff, and like a lot of the like most people are like super stoked about it because there's a lot of artists that I think are amazing and deserve more credit, and most people are very stoked to see that represented in these lists and stuff that I do on TikTok and Instagram. But where the gatekeeping comes in is this goth? Um, like I don't think that blah 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 is goth, or this person's goth, and like so I've had a few people be like, oh, like none of these bands are actually goth. Which okay, so first off, um, a lot of them really are. Bands like Oh Children and Urban Heat and Mountain Sims and stuff. They're very gothy, classic goth vibe bands. Um, Second off, like a lot of the shit that goths think is goth isn't really like if you listen to The Cure and you're not a goth, and you just hear the sound of The Cure, you don't think, oh, this is goth music. You're like, this is pretty like upbeat, like fucking like summertime music if you think about it. But because they have such a goth fan base, and because people have delved into their like darker stuff from like way back, like now they can, they've considered them part of the iconic goth bands, but I mean technically they're not. So anyway, that's what I say to a lot of the gatekeepers. But when it comes to this specific list, a lot of the people that are listed aren't there to be like, oh, this is a goth band, check this out. They're there as this is an artist that influenced the goth movement in the subgenre and subculture that is goth. So, like, you have people like Screamin' Jay Hawkins on it, who I put first because Screamin' Jay Hawkins was technically the first goth musician. He was the first ever artist to be called a goth artist. Um, and you have people like Polystyrene of X-Ray Specs, who X-Ray Specs was definitely punk. but they weren't exactly goth. But Polly and her style and her vibe influenced goth like so much, like more than any, like when it comes to like fashion, when it comes to attitude, when it like she was like what a lot of goths like modeled themselves after. Um, and then you have bands like the Gories and Death who aren't goth; they're more in the punk, vein. But like so many goth artists consider them huge influences to what they do, especially when it comes to people of color. And it's like the list is there so that people can see folks that deserve credit for their contribution to the goth scene. Saul Williams is not goth, but a lot of modern goth artists in the scene and in scenes that I am part of, like, consider him like a huge influence, and those are goth artists. So like it's very, it's very much on inspiration and um just overall contribution and like, you know like also like why are people complain like these people deserve more credit than like half of the fucking like white goth artists that get the constant praise, like, we all hear about like Susie being like the queen of goth, which she definitely contributed a lot, but like, I feel like there's so many like people of color that contributed just as much, if not more, that Susie probably got a lot of her like steez from. So anyway, yeah. So that's my little rant about that.
No, thank you for sharing. Wait, there's like so much we could dive into in all of that.
Yeah.
First, I definitely want to say hello to Dusty Spins. Um, Dusty said you take different elements and make them your own. I think regarding to what we were speaking of earlier and taking all
Thank
the
you.
yes.
Yeah.
And then we have Juan. Juan Black is here. Thank you for being here, Juan. Juan said Death is such an amazing band too.
So
And
good.
yes, I mean actually I'm not familiar with Death, but I'll
So
just believe you and take notes of a band I need to check out.
yeah, another, so not Death the metal band, but this is
Oh, I
this is
figured. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if you look them up, they're best known for under their documentary name, which was a band called
Oh.
Death.
Oh, yeah, I've
Um
seen that actually. Okay, I do
yeah,
know who you're talking about.
so
Okay,
good. Like
awesome.
they're ever since I watched that documentary, I was like, holy shit, and I got really obsessed with them. And yeah.
Yes, okay, I do know who you're talking about, and yeah, to everything that you said, there's just, like, so many layers to that, there's so many layers. Um, when you spoke about, like, The Cure, and to be fair, I'm personally not familiar with The Cure, I've never been a fan of
uh,
theirs particularly, so I can't speak to their discography. They just, like, never grabbed me, but I have heard that their popular songs aren't really anything like their, lesser known stuff.
yeah.
So to be fair, I've never like taken the time to dive in because I've just gotten hooked on other things. But to your point, if it is true that, they were goth at one point and then kind of moved away from that, I feel like I understand that because you see parallels with like Metallica. Like so many people argue that Metallica is not metal anymore. Like
Yeah.
they used to
Well,
be when they started and now they're just like rock. So
yeah. It's
genre is weird.
it's
Yeah.
weird with the Cure because I don't think the Cure was actually like ever like a goth band. Like you listen to Bauhaus and you're like, that's goth. That's a goth band. They've always been that way. I feel like the Cure just like back in the day they had like darker songs, and then in like the late to mid 80s was when they started doing like kind of more upbeat stuff. But like even the darker songs aren't really darker, they just have like a more like droll vibe to them. So like it's very interesting that they are so much like the goth band to certain people, and you're like, are they like, anyway.
Yeah,
Like
no
if we're
worries.
if we're gonna gatekeep, like, is the Cure goth? You know.
I know it's well, that's the thing because we can like one band can kind of shift genres over time, but then if they were like strongly associated with a genre, still be like no matter what.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've also felt that way. Like certain bands, it's like hard gatekeep. No, this is not goth. When it's like, okay, but like sonically, and I'm not even like trying to be ignorant of like the specifics and nuances of genre because I get that
Yeah.
that has its place. But I'm like, sometimes I'm like, this sounds the same. What
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
mean this is and this isn't? Like, what are you basing this off of? And like, I truly want to sharpen my ears to learn if there is a nuance, but sometimes I feel like that nuance doesn't actually exist. I think
And it's that nuance is just some asshole trying to mansplain what a genre is to you.
right. And like I know sometimes it does. Like I've sharpened my ears a lot when it comes to metal, so it's like, oh, I can hear like slam versus deathcore more now than I used to be able to.
Yeah.
But even then, like when I'm sharpening, I call it sharpening my ears. When I'm sharpening my ears towards like the goth genres, sometimes I am like, I don't get why this is left out. I get why certain things are left out. Like I get like that the Misfits isn't goth. Like I get that. But
Yeah.
I don't get like certain other
But aren't they though? Like, it's like
I
one of those
well, I
things.
don't
It's like more than the fucking Cure, I feel like, like um which also no shade to the Cure to anybody who's listening and they're like, "Oh my god, the Cure's like my favorite." Like I love how they sound even, but like um yeah, I think it is just such an interesting thing that you have
yeah.
subgenres, and then within subgenres, you have more subgenres, and like it's the constant discourse of, even people trying to say that like uh most visual K isn't goth when it's like, yeah, like a good portion of it is, and a good portion of it is more goth than the goth that we know as goth. Like, because it's actually music that's influenced by the gothic era. So anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers, but to the point of like, Oh Children, that's a band I can speak to because like I'm familiar with them.
Mhm.
I've heard some people say they're not goth, and I'm like, In what universe?" Like, especially like you hear a song like Malo, and it's like just like the big wall of sound. I'm like, this could be like a Sisters of Mercy song,
Yeah,
or you know,
and they're literally named after a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds song. Like, that's like deep cut got like what?
yeah,
Yeah, people are silly.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry that you got a lot of haters from your post, but
I
I
mean,
agree.
it's fine. It's like, I mean, it's I just like to share artists that I
Yeah,
think deserve more credit.
that's what I was gonna say. I agree that all of the artists that you shared definitely deserve, all the credit and more so. Juan said, Pure Hell is another good band that doesn't get mentioned as much.
Yes.
And Pornography was the album that probably got the Cure Goth cred.
Yes. No, these yeah, two solid truths right there.
Awesome. So, yes, so thank you for sharing. So going back in time, or I guess we're going forward to March. We're moving from February to March, but back in time, 2023.
Oh yeah.
So on March 7th, 2023, just a few weeks after your Valentine's Day release, you uploaded an acoustic version of She's a Witch, which is another favorite of mine.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that's right.
yes, it was so good.
Thank you.
um, and you uploaded it as a Tiny Desk concert series submission. And it says it was your sixth submission to the Tiny Desk concert series. So
Yeah.
is the upload the submission itself, or do you have to go through some different process behind the
No,
scenes?
so the upload is the submission itself, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm probably gonna do it again this year, but like I'm also like, bruh, like what's up, Tiny Desk? Because like I have okay, so like I think so. There's been 3 or 4 Pretty Frankenstein submissions, and like two from like my old bands, um, and like not one little mention because they do like little things of like here's our favorites from the week, and they like have not ever like shown any love. It's funny. So I was first introduced to Tiny Desk from our friend Fantastic Negrito, who is a Bay Area blues slash rock slash alternative musician, and he won Tiny Desk in I think in like 2015, and ever since then his career has essentially catapulted, and he has like won like 3 Grammys since, and he's the one that we got to play with at the Fillmore back in 2018, when we were still under like a different name and everything. And he was the one that convinced me to like do it like every year. Um, and we'll probably do it again this year, but it's literally just like artists like submit their videos of them doing an acoustic version of their song, what they think is one of their best songs, and then like you know a group of some white people probably like look at it and they're like, this is music or this isn't music. So I don't know, who knows. um but it's a thing that's done by NPR, and so maybe we're just too loud for them. I don't know.
Maybe your fan base needs to like bombard NPR, but like you better put Pretty Frankenstein on the Tiny
Right,
Desk series.
exactly.
Let's make it happen. I'm ready on social media and email.
Yes,
Cause yeah, I loved that. I love that submission. Um,
thank you.
the aesthetic in that video, by the way, is amazing. Like everything from like the jack-o'-lanterns to the bookshelf. I just like
Yeah,
love the whole setup that you did. It had
yeah,
an awesome aesthetic. And I loved how your hair was matching Paulina's hair. Like seriously, the whole thing just like had a vibe. And your look was absolutely stunning.
thank
And
you.
yes, 100%. And so speaking of your look and style, like personally, I feel like my style has evolved and changed like 4 to 5 times in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
I have like different staples all the time. So,
I
do
love
you
the I
have
love the Dracula vibes here
Draculaura? Oh,
that you're serving. Um,
oh, thank you. I feel like we're kind of on the same wavelength. Like I feel like we both have a little
yeah,
mesh going on and like the
yeah.
red. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I feel like this year I'm just gonna pretend that it's 2004. And you'll probably see me like rocking like a red tie and like a black like suit or something at some point, and just very like in my emo goth melding.
I love that. Side note, I don't know if you've seen that meme that's going around where it was like, why did we ever pretend, or no, like when we had like the, well, actually I'm messing it all up now, but basically the whole point of the meme was like all the alternative kids, emo and goth kids and everyone went like all of us like, or most of us had a weird phase where we tried to be
Normal,
normie.
that's right, we were
Yeah.
normal, and then we just switched right back. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's, I think a lot of that also like came with transitioning for me, where I'm just like, you know what, I'm just gonna be the emo girl that like I wanted to
Yes.
be in high school.
Yes, I love it. I love how like we all actually become, well, not all, but when we do become more of ourselves in older
Yeah.
age, it's way better than trying to repress
Oh yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
for the rest
And
of our life.
and at least like now in your older age you have like hopefully like a little money that is your own to buy your silly emo goth
Yeah,
clothes and
you're
whatever you will.
harmless. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
perfectly harmless clothes and hair and whatever else
Yeah.
people were so against back in the day. Um, but yeah, so currently in terms of your style, do you feel like your style has evolved at all? Like, do you have current staples that you didn't have before? Or do you feel like you're just always experimenting with different looks?
No, I think it's definitely evolved in a sense that, like, I think before, like, at least last year, it was very much like maybe not so much on our live because I had just gotten those bad ears and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wear the bad ears. But like,
I still love those.
yes, but like everything, I think around then because I was still in like year one and a half or something of uh transitioning where like it was very much like, oh, like whatever I wear has to be kind of girly. Like I need to crop all of my fucking shirts. I need to wear fishnets all the time. I need to blah blah blah. Whereas now I'm a little more like just like a little more of what's comfortable and then also a little more of like I don't need, it's kind of like with the genres, you know, where it's like where it's like this doesn't have to be what some dude considers femme. Like, you know, femme can be short hair. Femme can be like wearing fucking pants, baggy pants instead of, you know, like tights. Like it, you know what I mean? So like there's a mixture of being a little more comfortable with that, and I don't even want to say fluidity because that insinuates that like, oh, if you wear baggy clothes or if you uh, you know don't have makeup on all the time, that means you're gender fluid. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, I kind of am, but like I'm playing around with it. But still, it's like, you know, uh, it's just like being doing you is kind of what I've been doing more of lately, and that's like I think that's just the best thing to do. Like don't worry about like, oh, is this girly enough, is this too manly, you know, like I
I love
mean
that.
dysphoria is a thing, and it, like, you know, but uh you know, if you can look at certain things and be like, I want to do this, then do it.
Yes, I love that. And then before I ask a follow-up question, which you don't have to answer by the way, if you don't want to, but I love the parallel between your genre journey mashup and like your style journey mashup of like not having to fit into boxes and rules and then just doing what's like authentic for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's, I mean, it's like kind of the point of the name. Like, because before, when I thought of the name Pretty Frankenstein, it was very much like, oh, that sounds cool. And then, like, over the time, it like got the meaning of just like, oh, like everything about this is Frankenstein esque, where like things are just meshed together and like it's like, why not, like who fucking cares.
100%. And if you don't mind me asking, because obviously, like you said, the gender dysphoria is real.
Mm.
Um, how do you kind of combat that, like if and when it comes up when you're like, you know, uh, kind of figuring out what is authentic for you?
Yeah, I mean, like for me it's like i I work in like a very people heavy job where like I see a lot of people every day, and like, you know, there's the downside of getting like constantly misgendered, which like, you know, tends to happen for people. um but I feel like there's things that I don't know, I feel like even if it's just like for my own uh state of mind, you know, certain things like, you know, doing my makeup a certain way, wearing this or that, and like it just, it kind of like helps it, without giving into a stereotype. I think the main thing is just like redefining what you consider the thing that you're trying to go for. So like if you want to be femme presenting, um, or if you want to be whatever it is that you want to be, um, but you're like I don't know, for some reason you can't do this or you can't do that. Like it's a lot of it is reworking mind frames and like how you see that. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, but it's kind of like what I tell people when it comes to misgendering. Because a lot of people will be like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry, I meant this." But when you think about misgendering, you're thinking about misgendering. You're thinking more about what to call the person than about what that person wants to be called or how you see that person. So if you take how you see that person and you're like, I see that person as like female, or I see that person as, you know, non-binary, or I see this person as a man, and you actually like kind of work to agree with that, and work to like think of them that way as opposed to just being like, I got to get this word right. You know what I mean? Like, because if you're just like, I got to get these words right, then you're bound to look like an asshole.
That's so real. And also, like, if you're worried about just getting words right and you have like anxiety about it, you're gonna mess up, like,
Yeah.
just by the nature of that's what you're focusing on. So
Yeah.
that I've not heard anybody explain that before, and that makes perfect sense. Like, it is just a totally different mindset. And that just like speaks to the power of the ways that our brains work. Like,
Yeah.
half the time it's because we're focusing on the wrong thing. When, like you said, if
Yeah.
we shift our mindset, things actually can really change.
And I feel like that's the thing with the dysphoria. If you switch kind of like the mindset of certain things, it can make this or that kind of easier, but like, you know, not exactly like changing the goal, but anyway.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was really awesome. That was seriously like the first time I'd have ever heard anybody like uh describe that. So that's awesome. Um and Juan says, oh, this was from a while back, but Juan says, I still do the red tie, black suit thing on stage sometimes.
Yes. Yes, red tie, black suit is like such a combo. It's like it's iconic. Like, you know, whoever the marketing person was that told like Billy Joe and Gerard Way, like you're gonna do this, and then everybody's gonna do that.
Yeah.
Is a genius.
And then Sunny's, a Swedish elder goth, the name on YouTube says, good morning. So it's morning over there in Sweden. Thank you for
A
joining.
nice
Thank you for being
morning.
here. And Sunny said that she was more masculine when she was a kid, and then when first grew up, started to wear more feminine clothing. But I still think people should just dress as they want without others judging them. I know, right? That's the part we
Exactly.
can't control, but
Yeah.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I love that Tiny Desk concert series
Thank
session you
you.
did. So I'm gonna make sure I add that to the links in the description. Um,
Yes.
so going back to the timeline for last year, after that, it looks like on April 10th, you released the music video for Pearl, Please I'm a Star, um,
Yes.
which is such an amazing music video, like very cinematic, another aesthetic masterpiece, but like
Yeah.
with a totally different aesthetic, and style, by the way, which like you looked so beautiful in that
Oh,
dress. Like,
thank you.
I don't
Thank you.
know what the style is. It's like, I don't know if that's like the farm dress, but
I
I
think
love
I
it.
literally got that dress from like what was it? It was like somewhere online, and it was like it ended up being like $11, and I was like, oh shit. So that was nice. but it was like literally just the girls and I having drinks and like being like, let's just do this. It would be silly and stupid. And then we did it. And it all was like in the span of a day. And then there were like scenes that I filmed on my own. Me and the scarecrow. uh, and the thing that I think was like the crowning achievement for that video was the fucking alligator blow up that we put in the little lagoon. And that lagoon was like 5 minutes away from my house at the time. So it was just like boop. Um and like just like people seeing us, like we tied the blow up alligator to a little string, and we threw it in there. But like, I can only imagine what people like walking by were thinking when like just me in that dress was like throwing a fucking blow up alligator on a string into the lagoon.
Did you like catch anyone's eye? Like, be
Oh
like, what's
yeah,
going
yeah. A
on?
bunch of people were like walking by and they were like, "What is happening?"
That is so awesome. Oh my gosh. So you filmed most of that in a day though? Because I was gonna ask, like, how long and like when did you start,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
filming process?
honestly, most of our videos are just filmed like in like the span of like a couple hours, and then it's me editing everything for like about a day, getting really annoyed with my phone. um and and then that's usually how we make music videos.
They like seriously look like so professional. Like I'm not even just saying that.
Thanks.
Like amazing. Sunny said, I love silly and stupid. It's definitely needed in the world nowadays. That shows creativity and humor without being serious all the time.
Yes.
That's true. I mean, you gotta have fun.
Well, and that's I think that's the thing about us as a band is we're very silly, and we post a lot of like silly stupid things on like Instagram and TikTok, whereas I feel like a lot of goth or like subgenre bands are very like, yes, we're this band and blah blah blah, and like it's like so serious, and you're like, bro, just chill. It's not that serious, like,
Definitely. And that's funny because you all are so different from Empty Graves, but now I'm starting to see so many parallels between you all. And it's like, okay, no wonder I love these two bands because they also are like just goofy, but they
Yeah,
also at the same time, they're so goofy with their music videos and everything too and having fun, but their messages are serious.
yeah,
And I feel like you all have that too, like the goofy, playful side, but then you are always like, uh standing up for different issues and communities too at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think that's just part of how I grew up, and then also just being a like queer person of color, like being so I'm Filipino and Iranian, and I was raised on both sides. I was raised very Filipino and very Iranian on both sides. My mom came here from Manila, and my dad came here from Iran, and it's like, I think just having that as kind of like the background of who I am, and then you know with uh growing up like kind of like a poor kid in the Bay Area, and like being trans, there's many things that make me appreciate life on the daily and make me want to, like, I don't know, do what I can for anybody else as well. um and I mean, it goes the same for my band. They're both people of color, queer, and it's like, it's not that, because us pretty much like existing is us like fighting back, right? But like, I've always had like I want to do this for this cause, or what, how can I help? Like there's always been a how can I help there. um and I try to do it in a way that's not like, look at me, I'm helping. Like, like I've done like a lot of homeless handouts and stuff, but like people don't know that unless they have a conversation like this with me, because I'm not gonna take a picture of me handing somebody food. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, anyway.
No, I know what you mean, and it's like everything is well, life is weird.
Yeah.
Life is just weird, period. But then when you throw social media in the mix, and then it's like there's just so many fine lines between so many different things, like virtue signaling versus like I don't know what you even call uh actually like walking the walk without virtue signaling, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
all these different nuances, but I know what you mean. Like you're not doing these things because you want to be perceived as a good person. You're just doing them because they're genuinely like in your spirit.
Yeah. I guess that's the way to put it. Like, cuz I don't know. I also like being somebody that's been in a lot of like positions like that. It's like, that fucking sucks for anybody. So, you know. Um but yeah, we do what we can.
Awesome. And Juan said, I feel that with the music video editing. I love it and I hate it at the same time.
Yeah, I have such a love hate with video because I edit every one of our videos that's ever been put out. I have been the one to edit, and it should be a job at this point. But like, um, yeah, I love it. It's great, and like when somebody else like does it, sometimes I'm very like they'll show me and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. Actually, I'm just gonna redo the whole thing. So there's like that bit. But yeah, it's definitely a love hate thing with that.
Yeah, that is very real. I haven't edited music videos, but just like I can't imagine like handing over like I've thought about producing shows before, and it's like I want to do it all. Like I want to be like I want to like direct and then but then I also want to like be involved in the editing, like just like
Yeah.
all the parts, you know?
I mean, especially if you're like, oh, I know how this should look. And then, like, you're like, well, I'm just going to do it because it's easier than explaining and then seeing it done wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And then Sunny said, I remember laughing when Robert Smith suddenly was silly talking on the stage, and I didn't expect it. So just love when artists do that, and then genuine will always be authentic. That's true.
Yeah.
If you're genuine, that is authenticity.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's see. So after releasing Pearl, Please I'm a Star music video, then in June, you uploaded to YouTube the variety show of Our Flag Means Death, which you touched on a little bit earlier. But you actually uploaded a video that showed clips from the variety show itself.
Yeah.
Uh, so where did I know you mentioned earlier that you're a fan of the show, but where did the idea for the event come from, and what was it like making it a reality?
Well, the thing with that was partner, my fiance he had just gone to he had gone to Seattle to see the event that they had there as part of Emerald City Comic Con, and like, while that was happening, they had where so at Emerald City Comic Con they had a bunch of the actors from Our Flag Means Death. And then, like on one of the nights, they had their drag show, which was like a big benefit, and it, looked amazing. And I was like, we should do, our own out here, and invite a lot of them to come out, and a lot of them did. A lot of the people from that one came out, and performed, and just kind of like to give, because we know that there's a community for fans of that show in the Bay Area, so we wanted to give them a chance to experience that like joy as well. So yeah, so we did that one and it was fucking insane and it sold out and it was so good. And then we're doing another one this month on the 15th that is also sold out at the same place at the comedy club. And like, the comedy club like loves it out here, and they're like making special drinks for it, and it's just like it's it's just a bunch of queer joy. So yeah,
That is so awesome. And amazing that you sold out twice.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like we have before with like other like little non-themed shows that we've had there, but it's kind of cool that our first show of the year this year is something that we know there's going to be like a fuck ton of people. So I'm really stoked for that.
Awesome. I'm excited for you, and I wish I could be there. Hopefully
I
one day
know.
I'll get to catch you alive.
Yeah.
That would be like a miracle, honestly. Okay, so I saw you did a duet with your mom at the variety show, which is really cool. And I know in our last interview, you mentioned that both your parents are musicians. So what are they up to these days musically?
Well, my mom, so like I have a stepdad that my mom is with, but my biological father that I don't talk too much on the Iranian side, he was a drummer. And then my mom is like, as you saw in the clips, a singer, and she like does a lot of her own music and stuff. But yeah, I think she just put out like a single sometime last year, and she has a couple music videos under her thing. I think, what is her, I think the artist name is Older Bad Bitch or something like that.
No
I'll
way.
I'll like
That is
I'll
awesome.
share it.
Yes, share
Yeah.
it and I'll add it to the description because I love that. That is so awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, so her and I have been singing together for like my entire life, and she was like, she very much nurtured my want to be a musician and to sing and everything, and has helped me a lot over the years. And she was doing a Nine Inch Nails tribute band called Nine Inch Nail Polish, where she was singing and I was playing guitar. And then she's been my backup singer like a whole bunch of times, including sometimes with Pretty Frankenstein. We just have her come and play keys and sing.
Yes, wasn't she in the Girls Will Be Ghouls music video?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay. That is so awesome. Shout out to your mom. Seriously.
yeah. And she's always been a goth, and is always like, she was, I think Nine Inch Nails was one of the first bands that I ever knew of when it came to bands and just music. Like, I think Nine Inch Nails was one of my first memories of music because she was just playing them constantly when I was a child. So,
That is so awesome.
yeah.
So that was really great seeing you do the duet with your mom in the variety show video. And as you mentioned, you had drag and you also had stand up, and then of course, your band performed Pretty Frankenstein. Um, I didn't see any clips of you doing stand up, and I know that you mentioned that you were doing stand up. Are you gonna be doing any stand up in the upcoming show by any chance?
Yeah, okay. So the only thing that sucked about that was we thought that the club was recording it, but I guess their stuff was like on the fritz that night, so we like had to like compile everything that we had from cell phones. So this time we're just literally going to be like recording everything from on our end as well, just to get everything. But um yeah, I might do a little just to open things up, but it depends. It depends on the vibe. Like, because I do stand up on the side just like as a little hobby, but yeah, sometimes when I'm like hosting, like I have to break up the monotony and you know do like a couple bits here and there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious because like last time when we spoke last year you mentioned like that you were doing stand up. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, well there's
Yeah,
stand up in the show." I just wondered if you were like part of the lineup.
yeah, yeah, totally. Oh yeah, yeah. There's gonna be stuff
Oh,
like.
awesome. I'm
I'm
excited.
stoked.
And then Sunny said, I love drag shows. We used to have that in Gothenburg when I was younger. The group had a stage name After Dark. Ooh,
Oh,
sounds
nice.
cool. And then cool. Oh yeah, it's cool to have artistic parents and your mom sounds super cool. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And Nine Inch
She's
Nail
pretty dope.
and Nine Inch Nails is a hot ass band. I think that's hot ass band. Sorry if
Yeah,
I got that wrong. Okay, awesome. So, fast forward to spooky season from the
yes.
June, because I was like basically I was like following the timeline of like what was posted on Spotify, what was posted on Bandcamp, what was posted on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah,
So fast forward to spooky season. You released, and you mentioned this earlier too, but you released the singles that you had released on Bandcamp on Valentine's Day. You released those in October on Spotify with a different song. Oh, your cover of London Dungeon as well.
yeah.
And then you also released a music video for London Dungeon. So when did the plan for like that release start, and what made you like do a slightly different upload? I know you mentioned it had been like remixed and remastered.
Yeah, it
Um,
was a lot of it was we had finally gotten Tiffany to a place that we had wanted it. And so I was like, okay, well let's put that out and we don't have Pearl on Spotify, let's put that out as well. And we ended up doing the Misfits cover and I don't know, I just kind of like I felt like it needed something, so I hit up our friends, the Dead Speak and Ghoulie Gal, aka Thea Munster, who plays the theremin on it. And they like did such an awesome job. Like the Dead Speak, we like adore them. Jamie is so nice and so cool. So we literally filmed the video where I think the rest of the band wasn't available, but I had the day off and Jamie was like randomly in town and I was just like, "Oh, you want to meet up at the bar and then we'll like film this video in like an hour and then just like hang out." So we did that. Um and it was chill. They're awesome people. Um and yeah, so I don't know, we just kind of put them all together and we're like, let's have an October release. And like, a Misfits cover is always a good way to like ring in the spooky season.
awesome. And then Juan said, I love Thea Munster. Sorry.
Yeah, she's awesome. We've worked with her like so many times. Like if you look on the Pretty Frankenstien like discography on like Spotify, you'll see I think we have like 7 songs with her. Like I yeah, something like that. Maybe 8. I don't know.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then, spooky season come and gone. Then in November, you released the extended version of Tarantula on Bandcamp. Um,
So like
so
Bandcamp, Spotify, Bandcamp.
yeah, well, that's kind of what I was curious about. So, well, first there's a song on there that you cannot find on Spotify, "She's Trash." Uh, which has such a
Yeah.
horror vibe, which is awesome. But that's what I wanted to ask. Is there a reason that, some things you post to Spotify only and some things to Bandcamp? I'm sure there is a reason, but uh
It's really like So sometimes with Bandcamp, cause like back in the day, like I would put a lot of stuff on Bandcamp if I was trying to raise funds for something. So a lot of our Bandcamp releases are just like on Bandcamp because we can raise funds for whatever that thing is. Um, but then other times it's like I want to give Bandcamp subscribers and Bandcamp followers like a little like I don't know, a little extra, and stuff that they can't get on Spotify. And because Spotify is like it's great, but it's also evil and there's no money in it. So it's like there's there's those fine lines of Spotify's Spotify is great for exposure and getting us plays, getting us on playlists, and like recently we were put on one of Maddie Danger's playlists, and like that like bumped the fuck out of that song, and like through that a lot we got a lot of fans too, and then other people adding us to playlists. So Spotify has its good stuff, but at the same time it's like you know Bandcamp is very like you can talk to people directly, you can actually make money, and it's you know anybody who's a follower on Bandcamp has probably been following us for a while. So yeah.
That totally makes sense. And yeah, it's especially like the exposure part seems like still worth it to use Spotify. With
Yeah.
the recent changes that they've made, um, do you think it's still worth it just for that purpose?
A little bit. It's like I don't know. I'm a little I can kind of go either way when it comes to it.
Do you think that's
um
something that you're gonna like keep reassessing as like the year goes on to see if it's
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah, I think so because also the time frame of things too. It's like you can't just like put something out on Spotify and have it be like out the next day. It's like there's a whole process and everything. So it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of annoying. Um, and like it like gets money from us because like when we submit we have to literally pay a third party to anyway.
No, no, not anyway. It's good to know because like I mean to be fair, I think it's been no secret that Spotify isn't great for artists, but I think it's just like kind of a convenience factor, which is why so many people use it,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's like if they like I wish playlists were a bigger thing um on other apps, but Spotify is like the most known and the most like easily accessible, and usually everybody has it. So yeah.
Totally. Well, I guess we'll check in a year, see what
Yeah.
where where everything is in terms of like Spotify.
Yeah.
Um, but that pretty much covers everything that was released on Spotify, YouTube, and Bandcamp last year, which is a lot. Again, that's a
Yeah.
lot. Um,
When you
so
say
how?
it out loud, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
no, it
shit, I
really
guess we
is.
did a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So how would you summarize the year as a whole for you? And is there anything else that you wanted to share about 2023 that we didn't talk about just in terms of like releases or anything?
I think it was like just like a really like eventful time. Like we played a bunch of shows in June, and then we also played like a bunch in October. We did like there was a night where we did two shows in a row, and then like a show the night before that. So it was like, and then yeah, it was a pretty wild year. So far we've been kind of like chilling, kind of like assessing things and trying to, plan out everything else. We have a few cool things in the works. We're working on the album, which will totally like, be putting all the promo and stuff into, and so like people will see like what we have in store for that. But it's pretty wild.
Definitely. Um, but it seems like in a lot of ways a good way, good ways too. Um, a lot of awesome releases, and then even your band members got married.
Yeah, yeah, which is awesome. They're like the best. It's funny because like um I've talked about before how I've been in a bunch of different bands and nobody in those bands would really like come to me with like songs, and like we are at kind of a point right now where we're just kind of like assessing like what we have, and we're like, oh my god, there's so many songs that we haven't like, because they'll write some songs, bring them to me, I'll write some songs, bring them to them, and we just have, and then we'll like have like recording days where we're just like, chilling for hours and recording. It was kind of nice because we ended 2023 in the studio with the three of us and some friends just like having drinks and playing music and recording until like 4 a.m. And I was like, I feel like that's a perfect way to like start a new year, is like creating, and that like gives you a sense of like the momentum for the year, and then with Lunar New Year coming up too, I'm like, yes, like keep it going, keep all the things going.
Amazing. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to bring the year. Like doing what you
Yeah.
love with people you love. I mean, honestly, like what could be better?
Right?
Yeah. So last time we touched on mental health, and I love that you're open to talking about that.
Yeah.
Um, and you mentioned that that it was hard to leave the house at the time, which for me, like 100% relatable. Like I literally only go out like once a month, and I have to like
Yeah.
psych myself up for that. Um, but it seems like you did so much in 2023. So, did your mental health see any improvements, or was it just like a battle to get everything done, or both?
It maybe both. I mean, here's the thing: is I deal with a lot of anxiety issues, and like there's like, it's like a, I couldn't call it agoraphobia. I have like a trauma response to like traveling for a certain amount of time, and being in a confined space. So it's weird. Being like it's not like having social anxiety, because I'm very social. And it's also not what people call agoraphobia, because like when somebody hears agoraphobia, they think of Joan Cusack and Shameless, where it's like, today I'm gonna step outside, and then she's like, no, never mind, I'm not gonna step outside, which that sucks, that people have. But I have, what I deal with is very different. Um, I have my comfort radiuses, and it's funny. It's been very much like, um, last year there was a lot of like, you know, like both fighting the comfort radiuses, but then also like doing everything that I can while still being kind of in them. So like it is trippy. But then uh also like we moved a couple of times last year. So it was just like kind of like a wild year all around. And I feel like so far it's like this year's a little more leveled, where it's like we're gonna go on the as opposed to the you know.
Well, that's good. It sounds like well, I mean, life sometimes, or often throws things that we don't expect. So, but it sounds like at least this year appears to be a little bit more like you know
More
what
on
to
the up.
expect. Yeah,
Yeah.
more on the up.
But hopefully less on the roller coaster.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I definitely think any opportunity we have to speak honestly about mental health is so important. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's something that like people don't like. There's so many people out there with just like unchecked
Oh,
fucking anxiety, or like even if it stems from like being on the spectrum or something, and like people just kind of like blame it on other things a lot of the time, and it's like, nah, nah, bro, you got like the same thing I have, you know, like
So true, and that's why I think the more we talk about it, the more people might start to be able to see it in themselves, realize it's
yeah, and the
okay to, like, admit it.
less
Yeah,
stigmatized, yeah,
exactly, yeah. So we're already getting into the second month of 2024, which is just, like, weird.
yeah,
Um, and Pretty Frankenstein already released another song and music video, and it sounds like this was part of a really huge, awesome collaborative project between many bands.
yeah. I was like, wait, we did what? No, and then yeah,
Yes, a part of the Secret Santa song exchange, so that honestly just sounds cool. Could you share a little bit more about, like, what that was, like, how many bands participated and
yeah.
all
I
of
think
that?
there was something like 27 bands, and
That's
the
so
band,
many.
yeah,
That's
and,
amazing.
and the band Rat Bath put it on, and excuse me, Rat Bath is like an awesome, like they're like they call themselves murder folk. So it's like this awesome mixture of like folk slash, like I wouldn't say country, but like, southern goth, but like emo, like MCR-ish vibes. It's really trippy. But they're really cool, and they're an all trans band as well. And which is like awesome. So they put out this thing saying, "Hey, we're doing our Secret Santa song swap thing again," and I was like, "Oh yeah, so, like that sounds super fun." And just a chance to like learn somebody else's song, or even a chance to hear somebody else learn your song. And so it was really cool to do that. Um, they did say it doesn't have to be anything special. It can be you in your practice space just playing the song live. We kind of didn't do that, and we just were like, you know what, we're gonna record this in the studio, and we're gonna film a full ass music video for it. So that's what we did.
Why not? No, that's awesome. I loved seeing that, and I just love that whole concept, and I know I watched your all's video, which I loved, but I realized I never saw who did your cover, and I'd love to see and hear that because I'd be familiar with the song.
Yeah, I think it was a band. Oh,
We could put their
something.
link. We can
Yes,
put the links in the description, but I
I
definitely
think
want to check that
like
out personally.
Old Crow or something like that. And they were, oh my god, I feel like such a dick.
No,
Um,
no, no. Don't
but
worry. Well,
like,
life is just like so chaotic. Like,
yeah, but
you know.
it was cool. They did like a whole like, it was almost like Pixies ish version of our song. And yeah, it was really nice to see like another band like perform your song. It's just like something so trippy, you know.
Right? I was gonna say it sounds like a trip.
Yeah. And I was so glad that we got the dead speak for the song that we did, because like I said earlier, they're an awesome band. We've worked with them for before. So like when Rat Bath sent us the thing, like you're gonna get their song, we were like, yes. So we really wanted to make that band proud because we think so highly of them.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely include the links for that below, and we'll include the links for all the things that we've talked about.
Sweet.
Yes, so I really appreciate your time, and I know actually we've gone over an hour, so I do
Oh no.
apologize. So I guess we could wrap this up by asking, what are you most hoping for in 2024 for yourself and for Pretty Frankenstein?
I am hoping for a few things that I can't talk about. Um, that would be really cool. But also, uh, I'm hoping that we finish an album to share with everybody, and to, put out more music videos, play more shows, kind of the usual. the usual hopes that will be realities. And yeah, I hope more folks find us the way that you found us.
Definitely. Well, anyone out there listening now, links in the description to check out Pretty Frankenstein music videos, music, and other fun, such as the variety show. Um,
Yeah.
Yay! But no, seriously, this was so awesome. Thank you so much. And
Yeah, thank you.
of course. And then I know that I said that was the last question, but was there anything else you wanted to add about anything before
Um,
we say next time?
so I could make a little announcement if you know we'll be putting out a song called Love Witch on Lunar New Year. And it'll be another yet another Valentine's Halloween thing for your Valentine's playlists and all that jazz. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm already excited. And now you've inspired me to make a Valentine's playlist, and like half of it's gonna be Pretty Frankenstein. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the last thing before we wrap up, I realized I was neglecting the comments. But Sunny said her favorite Misfit song are Dig Up Her Bones. Yeah, I love that song too. Uh, as an artist, what do you think? Oh, Sunny says a question.
Ooh.
Um, as an artist, what do you think when a platform such as YouTube doesn't allow you to have your music in other people's videos, especially when they're trying to introduce you? That's a good question.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like just another way for companies to fuck over artists. But it's I feel like if there are workarounds that people can think of, like I know attention spans are often dwindling, so like sharing links and stuff and like all of your videos can sometimes fall on deaf ears, but like do it anyway because you never know like who watches, or you never know, like I mean, something that Tyler the Creator said that has always stuck with me was like people are always worried about like numbers, but they never know who the like even if it's a small amount of numbers, I'm paraphrasing, they like never know who those people are. So like the if you get have a video that's like 40 views, like those can be like new fans and followers that like actually support your stuff. Those can be like one could be a fucking record exec. You never know. So just keep like kind of like putting stuff out and like keep recommending bands and like putting out you know stuff to kind of uplift artists any way that you can. So even if that's like check this out and it's like their like album cover and it's like link is down here, like there's our generations are very keen on kind of getting hit with some shit that like screws up our whole um way of doing things, and then being like, oh well, now we're gonna do it this way. We're a very adaptable people um as millennials and Gen Z and some Gen X. Sometimes maybe.
Sometimes, yeah, 100%. But
Mostly the after.
awesome. No, yeah, that's actually really good advice. I'm glad you said that because it's true. Like I can't tell you how many times I've seen a short where I wanted to know more about what I just saw. I go to the description and there's nothing.
Yeah.
So, note to self to like always like be better about always having links, which I try to do, but when you do it more often, then you're right. Like it really just helps people discover more music. So great
Yeah.
question, Sunnies. Thank you, Juan and Sunnies, for being here. Uh, and Sunny says she loves the title of what was it?
Oh, Love
Which
Witch.
Love Witch. Okay, I love it too. It's awesome. So we have a lot
Yes.
to look forward to this year. And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
yeah, always awesome catching up. So we'll definitely be keeping in touch throughout the year. And then I guess we'll do our annual check-in in
Yes, in
2025
2025.
or maybe sooner, who knows.
Yeah, maybe if you come out to the Bay,
Oh, yeah, I
we'll
would love that.
you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Have a good night and
All
cheers
right, you
everyone
too.
2024.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.